We're here to talk about the latest goings on from across the Championship. A lot quieter, isn't it, without the transfer window open now? And we start with a question which was very helpfully sent in to us from Carl Turner on email. Email sakatipod@gmail.com if you ever had anything you want to ask us about. But he wanted to know, which Championship club have you been the most impressed by over these first 4 games? I think that's particularly interesting right now, Justin, because we sit here with none of the promotion favourites having really grabbed us by the scruff of the neck, like they perhaps done in previous seasons. And you have been saying that despite Middlesbrough winning 4 from 4 so far, they haven't blown you away. So who has blown you away in these early stages?
Well, nobody's blown me away particularly. The teams I've been impressed by, one is West Brom. I know they sit second, 10 points from 12, and I know Middlesbrough fans will be saying, but we've got 12 from 12. I think with West Brom's circumstances in that they've got a rookie manager in charge, and they have had to reassemble the squad and rejig quite significantly. Middlesbrough haven't, although there have been some significant changes later on in the transfer window. I think with that and West Brom getting the results that they've been very solid. They've been very structured, whilst also being very clinical. Just developed really good habits, very good habits to have at this stage of the season with a new manager in charge. It's a very good platform for them to build on. They haven't blown me away, as I said, but when we talk about balance and a threat going forwards and being defensively sound, I've really liked what Ryan Mason has started with so far this season.
Yeah, I think that's a very good shout. It's the whole reason why we were talking a couple of weeks ago about West Brom possibly going under the radar, because they've hit the ground running under Ryan Mason. So yeah, you're absolutely right there to give them a shout. I think to give Middlesbrough full credit, they have played very well so far and deserve to be top. Defensively, they've been so solid, hence just the 1 goal conceded so far. And going forwards, they've had loads of players really step up. So I have been impressed with them. I think Coventry have to be deserving of a shout. Cov fans, I have no doubt, will be shocked to hear me praising Lampard, but scoring 14 goals in 4 games, always impressive, particularly when they failed to score in that first game. But the likes of Jack Radoni, Haji Wright, Victor Torp all started the season in red-hot form. And I'll always admit, Lampard is good at getting good players to perform well. He's definitely done that so far, and as long as those guys keep playing well, they'll probably finish in the top 6. I think Millwall are an interesting one, Justin, because on performances alone, they may actually be the team who's impressed me the most, but they've somehow got 2 losses to their name. There were the 2 games where the scoreline didn't reflect the game in my view, particularly the defeat to Wrexham last time out. Bizarrely, both of those games were at home as well. Yeah. But what I'd say is, if you're listening to this and you were hot on Millwall at the start of the season, like we were, Justin, I'd be encouraged by this start. I think now that the window has closed and we know Mihajlo Ivanovic is staying, that will hopefully settle him down and he can start scoring like he was in the second half of last season. Anything to say on that?
You do raise a good point with Millwall, because you can look at the results at home and go, well, they've conceded 5 in their 2 games against Borough and Wrexham, and they've not scored either. So they must be suffering a little bit. But it's about building very good habits at this stage of the season. There's no point in overperforming and then averaging out later on in the season, because ultimately you'll drop down the table, as we've seen with countless clubs in years gone by. You made a lot of friends at Blackburn saying the same thing all those years ago, didn't you? But it's a good point to make. As long as they become clinical and sharpen those moments in both boxes, very cliched, but it's true, then they should rise up the table. But that being said, that's not how football is played. So if they keep making those errors, they are going to get punished. But ultimately, they're getting in good areas. They're creating enough chances to be winning those games. They haven't. That might change over the coming weeks. Yeah,
absolutely right. I agree with everything you say there. And I think out of the teams who we were tipping to finish in or around the automatics this season, out of those sides, Birmingham City, I would not be discouraged by this start in my eyes, despite facing 2 teams who were in the Prem last season. They've gone toe-to-toe with them and were much the better team against Ipswich, really. Wasn't the cleanest of wins against Blackburn or Oxford, but they got the job done. And the thing is with them, they've still got some big signings to come into the side. So, yeah, I'd be very happy with Blues transitioning into the Champo. Anyone else you wanted to give a mention for, Justin, who I've perhaps not mentioned?
Swansea have looked good. And again, they've been slowly assembling their squad. So the early results we've not really seen the impact of a full squad available to the Swans yet. So they've been good. And I think Portsmouth as well. They've looked pretty impressive so far this season. So they're the other 2 clubs I'll throw into the old hat there.
Yeah, I think Swansea were one I was considering, but I also looked at it and saw that they had the lowest XG so far this season. But defensively, they've been absolutely rock solid. So if they can improve, obviously, in that regard, and they've brought in the likes of Adam Eder and Manuel Benson on deadline day, then hopefully that can go some way to doing that. But yeah, Swansea are another one I had down on my little short list. Well, we are speaking just over a week since the transfer window closed, Justin. The dust has very much settled on that slamming shut at this stage. But of course, clubs can still sign players who are free agents. And I think it's worth having a look at who's available. I was inspired after you put out a post on the Second Tier Twitter just a few days ago with a load of players available. So who's someone who stands out to you as a good pickup at Championship level who is realistic? Let's make sure that's clear.
I think that's the key point, is realistic. There are two names I throw in, and they fall under the same categories, Craig Dawson and Patrick Bamford. I think what you're getting with those two is two very experienced players who I think is realistic for any club in the Championship, maybe. There's nothing outstanding about them, but they're solid, dependable pros who I think have still got a lot. They've still got a lot to give. The other one I want to throw in is Elliot Moore. Obviously, he was released by Oxford. He's an interesting one. He's 6'5". He was very consistent in Oxford's League One days, and I think could be a good signing for a club who, let's say, haven't recruited very well over the summer. Blackburn, without too many senior defenders. So, yeah, Craig Dawson, Elliot Moore, I think would line up at decently at a couple of clubs. Patrick Bamford, I think, again, could get in most starting 11s in the Championship.
I think I've just won a load of money on you saying Craig Dawson there because I was I was wagering a lot of money on you putting him down.
A limited experienced defender available for a free transfer. Yeah, go on then.
Yeah, Justin is all over it. I think Dawson's a good shout. Bamford, I don't know, to be honest. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain is probably the best option available. Simple as that. We spoke not long ago about him when he was linked with Birmingham. Don't know what's going on with that now, but as long as he stays semi-fit, I think he'd do a job for anyone at this level. Not necessarily starting every game, but everyone knows he's got the talent to make things happen. After all, he started 17 games for a Premier League winning side 5 years ago, so he's not that bloody bad, is he? But my other shout, Justin, we all love a redemption story, don't we? I look at someone like Josh Da Silva, who I imagine a lot of people don't even know because he's been hit by injuries so badly. But once upon a time, he was one of the brightest talents in the Championship with Brentford. So much so that he was one of the rare players I tipped to play for England who didn't actually play for them. But that's entirely... Why are you pulling that face? But that's entirely because of injury. Since the start of March 2021, bloody more than 4 years ago, he started just 16 league games and missed the entirety of last season. I believe he's still even injured now. So, yeah, injuries have completely blighted his career. He's at, Daryl DK levels of unlucky, really. And I just want to see him happy again, Justin. Maybe on a pay-as-you-play sort of deal, because if he can stay injury-free, then he'd be brilliant.
The greatest pay-as-you-play player ever is Dennis Wise when he went to Coventry in 2005. Just wanted to throw that one in there for the nostalgia hit. But I do agree, Josh Da Silva, the reason why I didn't pick him is because it's just injuries. It's just injuries. You just don't know what player you're getting or what level of athlete you're getting after so many years out. You look at Shandon Baptiste, which is actually a good comparable because obviously they were at Brentford together. Suffered so long with injuries, came back to Luton last season and has ultimately gone down to League One with Luton. I'm not suggesting Josh Silva's going to have to drop into League One because I think if he can get himself fit, then he's got the technical quality to thrive at a high level. It's just whether or not he's got the physical capacity to do it, and that's the trade-off with players who've been out for so long, isn't it?
While we're on the theme of redemption arcs, Justin, on free transfers, may I throw a wild card out there?
We love wild card. Come on,
Dele Alli. Now, I know there were murmurs last week of Swansea apparently being interested. Not sure how much truth there is behind that, but under the right manager, substantially reduced terms on what he's on, let's make that clear, then maybe it could work under the right manager. That's the key thing here for me.
I think Dele Alli, he just needs to fall back in love with football. He's had a lot going on personally, which is completely justified. For I would say his drop off, but also he did a lot. He achieved a lot at such a young age as well. But I think you are right. The right manager makes a player fall back in love with football. I'd argue that under Frank Lampard, it feels like it might be might be a good.
Wasn't he under Lampard at Everton?
Yes, he was. He was. Yeah, but
So maybe not.
Maybe not. Yeah, but I think good managers. I like get players loving their football again. And I look at the list of teams in front of me. I don't think there are many managers in a division who can achieve that now. Because I think the years of
John Eustace, perhaps?
No, I
wouldn't say so. No. If Derby were linked with him, I'd be like,
of course.
If they can get him on a cheap deal, that's the other main thing that we've got to mention here, because I don't know how likely that is that someone manages to get him on a cheap deal, because I imagine there'll be someone somewhere in the world who's willing to pay him the big bucks still, or maybe he just doesn't have the hunger anymore. It's a lot of things you got to weigh in here, but if he does fancy reviving his career, I think he's 29 now, then come to the Champo Deli. We've seen people revive their careers here before, so why not? I would be somewhat excited if he did come to Derby, and I think it'd be the same for any Championship fan seeing someone definitely like him donning their colours, Justin.
Yeah, because you look at what Dele Alli achieved throughout his career. He's got an unbridled amount of quality. And he brings, back when he was, at his peak years, just one of those players who you look at and go, just love watching him play. So if you can get anywhere near that, then great. But in the Championship, you get a lot of prudent football clubs who just aren't willing to take risks financially. Well, then there's Wrexham, but you get the point. It's a difficult trade-off. But Dele Alli in the Championship would be a lovely, lovely story to cover.
Wrexham seems like a very likely one, doesn't it? I think there have been links there in the past few days as well, so that would not surprise me. But that would be very, very interesting. Well, will the standout free agent throughout the entire summer, as far as the Championship is concerned, Justin, was Josh Brownhill. He had rejected offers from the Premier League as well as Leicester. We were speculating about what sort of move he was holding out for. Well, we finally got an answer, because he's set to join Saudi Pro League side Al Shabab. So there you go. We were asking, what's he holding out for, Justin? Money.
Coin, to quote Jermaine Genius. It's, do you know what? Fair play to him. I know a lot of people will go, whoa, he's at his peak years. He could be, but he's with the greatest respect, he's a Championship player. So if you can go out and get a massive contract, I did see the rumoured contract was 100,000 a week.
There you go, Justin. That's the thing that annoys me when it comes to anything to do with Saudi, because I think it's so much more acceptable with him than it is others. Because you remember the whole Jordan Henderson fiasco a couple of years ago? People were saying, well, would you turn down 350 grand a week? Obviously, the answer for me is no, because I'm a poor little podcaster. Jordan Henderson was on, 100-something grand a week? Maybe much more than that. It's a pay rise, but he's gone from being a very rich man to an even richer man. You see what I mean? With Josh Brownhill, he's getting life-changing money. What would he have been on at Burnley? 30 grand a week or something like that?
Still nice.
If he's turning, it's still nice, but if he's turning down Premier League moves, it wouldn't surprise me if he's earning 3 or 4 times what he was earning at Burnley. And if it's, as you say, 100 grand or something like that, then I don't blame him at all. Yeah,
I mean, for Jordan Henderson there's a bit more complexity there with the sort of the morality of his choice. But when you've got the comparison between Josh Brownhill maybe and Ivan Toney is a little bit more accurate, because Ivan Toney is in the Premier League at the peak of his powers, and he makes a move to Saudi where the league's with an Ivan Toney at the peak of his powers, he's good enough to be playing international football, and he's going to a league that isn't going to get the best out of him. That's the trade-off. Whereas Josh Brownhill's 29, he's a top-end Championship player. Could probably do a job in the Premier League for a low-end Premier League club, but that's maybe as a squad player or someone who's not going to get the best out of it. But he's going to go there, he's going to earn a lot of money and get more out of his football and essentially change his life. And he might be back in the UK in 2 or 3, 4 years' time, much wealthier and
with big old pockets.
Very deep pockets and a couple of nice new cars, maybe.
Yeah, and fair play to him. It's a shame because it would have been brilliant again seeing him in the Championship, and as you say, he probably would have done a job at a lower end Premier club. But he's 29 now. Get yourself a big payday, lad. Sort your family out for life. I say, don't give a fuck what anyone else says about you. Justin, let's do a quick break. After that, we'll talk about some manager news and, well, bizarrely, some transfer news despite the window being closed. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast. Before we get on to some Champo news, Justin, may I take this opportunity, as always, to point everyone in the direction of the latest video on the Second Tier YouTube channel. I've had a go at predicting what the Championship Team of the Season will be come the end of the campaign. A handful of bold shouts in there from me. Without giving too much away, Justin, was there anyone in there who surprised you?
An admission of Nat Phillips is the place I would start.
Fuck's sake, man. We've maybe dropped 2 F-bombs in this episode already.
I don't think there was any in there that I was surprised about. I think Jay Robinson is an interesting one. I know you said not to give anything away, but that's an interesting one to put in there. At such a young age. I don't want to put too many players out there because, as I say, we've got to keep it a nice surprise for everyone to go with you. But Jay Robinson,
yeah, as I say, a couple of bold shouts in there, and Jay Robinson of Southampton, definitely one of them, considering he's only 18. But I think, for other than the reasons that I gave in the video, quite often when you do these team of the seasons, you have, one of the brightest young talents included in the team. So I was kind of thinking about it that way as well, but I've been very impressed with him so far, Justin. So it wouldn't surprise me if he continues that form over the course of the season.
He's been Southampton's most players likely to make things happen.
So far, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And I think to do that in a squad full of quality players at 18 is very, very impressive. The other thing I wanted to point out is the right back is an interesting choice. I'll leave that there.
I've completely forgotten who that was now.
You don't need to say who.
Right. Yeah, okay. I remember now. Yeah.
That's an interesting choice. Over the course of a 46-game season, not a natural position for him. Question marks.
But he's been playing in that position for the past, few years now. Just because you associate him with one position doesn't mean that's not his natural position now. Justin, you silly man. But you can find out who Justin's talking about right there by looking at the video for yourself. So Second Tier YouTube channel. Subscribe to us if you haven't already. I think we're at over 15,000 subscribers now, which is unbelievable. Just over 12 months ago, we were on 5,000. So yeah, tripled. Look at that, Justin. We're flying. Make sure you join the Second Tier YouTube community. Right, let's have a chat about some manager news. And we begin with West Ham, who may reportedly be looking to the Championship if they sack Graham Potter following their poor start to the Premier League season. Footy Insider claim Frank Lampard is piquing their interest, of course, a former West Ham player. What do we think of that, Justin?
It's one that I imagine made Coventry fans, the hairs, I wouldn't say hairs stand on the back of their neck, but more in an anxious way. I think it's an easy link to make, considering Graham Potter's in a bit of bother and West Ham are a bit of a mess, and Lampard being former West Ham, of course. I think the main question mark is, would he go? That's an interesting debate to have. Would he go? I don't think he can afford to go. And the reason why I think that's the case is longevity. He's only done one full season at a club. Just one full season, or lasted more than a full season, I should say. And that was with Chelsea. And then he was sacked six months into his second season. So I don't think he can afford for Coventry not to be a success, because I don't think West Ham will be a success for Frank Lampard. That's not because of Frank Lampard. That's because West Ham, without David Moyes, are a complete mess. No one's been a success with the Hammers in the last 10 years other than David Moyes.
Yeah, I think it's very easy for us as podcasters to say, well, he's doing fine at Coventry, why would he leave? But managers just don't think like that. They see Premier League club, probably a big pay rise as well, and any sense goes out the window. For me, I kind of hope this move does happen just to end us versus Frank Lampard. Carrying on with that theme, though, I don't think it would be a bad thing for Cov if he did go, because if he does, they can go and get someone who I believe is more tactically switched on than Lampard and have the best chance of getting over the line in terms of promotion, which is ultimately the goal for Coventry. Because, as I've mentioned plenty of times, I've had my doubts over his capabilities of doing that. I think Lampard would be mad to make that move, considering he's enjoying his best spell as a manager in many years. He should surely stay for the benefit of his own career. But as I say, managers don't tend to think like that. I also think he is a bit of a career manager where he'll just take the first job that comes along, as long as it's step up the pyramid. By all means, prove me wrong, Frankie, but that's just how I see it with him.
There's room for a lot of cynicism with Frank Lampard, mainly because, of course, we've not been impressed by him throughout his career. But what we can say is Coventry, he's been on par so far with Coventry, and this is the season to judge him on. Because I think ultimately his career as a manager hasn't yielded any winning success, and what I mean by that is an outcome, a trophy, a promotion. That's what I think he needs to achieve before he steps up. And without that, I just don't think his career as a manager is going to progress. And like you said, he becomes a bit of a career manager where he just takes a job, has it for 18 months, gets sacked, and then takes the next one. I imagine Frank Lampard being the elite player he was, that's not the mindset he wants to have as a manager, because you need to put in foundations. And ultimately, if you can do that and have a legacy, I think that's more important than going to West Ham and then probably getting sacked in April.
Yeah, because as you say, other than David Moyes, it's been a bit of a burial ground over the years, hasn't it? Sticking with managers, have you seen that Steve Cooper's gone to Danish side Brøndby? The Telegraph says he's turned down a number of championship jobs. Seems a bit of a strange move, Justin.
I don't think it is, because...
Really?
Yeah, no, Brøndby, the big club in Denmark, massive club in Denmark. I don't think that's really appreciated how big they are in Denmark, which I know it's not the championship, the best league in the world. I know that. But with that, you've got a chance of going for the title and getting European football, and ultimately pushing your CV into a stratosphere that you're not going to get managing a championship club to promotion. It's as simple as that.
I don't understand what the thinking is behind this, because I thought maybe Brøndby were having some sort of a renaissance in European football that I just wasn't aware of. But no, they've just missed out on qualifying for the Europa Conference League after being knocked out by Liam Rosenior's Strasbourg. So he's not competing in European football this season. So why is he taking this job? To win the Danish league? Is that really a bigger achievement and going to catch the eyes of other clubs in England than getting promoted from the Championship? I don't know. I imagine he'd probably get paid a lot more if he stayed in the Championship as well. So I don't know. You're also managing at a higher level and, as I say, probably getting paid more at this level. So yeah, it's just quite confusing for me, but best of luck to him. I don't know if you wanted to hit me back on that, Justin.
No, I just think it enhances his CV, because the example that you brought up was Liam Rosenior and Strasbourg obviously losing to Strasbourg. Liam Rosenior's put himself in a completely he's not going to get a championship club now.
Ligue 1, it's a much better league than the Danish league.
I don't doubt that. But the measure of success that Liam Rosenior is going to have and managing in is in Europe, and that's going to put his CV much higher than other managers that he's competing with for jobs that are bigger than a championship club, and that's where my thought process is.
I'm not sure about that at all. Justin, 5 in 10. Name 5 countries beginning with the letter A.
Armenia, Austria, Australia, Albania, Azerbaijan.
Oh, he's done it. He's done it. Surprised he left out Argentina. But yeah, some interesting shouts in there. But well done, Justin Peach. I was a bit worried for you in the second half of that, but I think that's the first one you've got in like 2 or 3 weeks. So well done, dear boy.
First one of the season, definitely. That was a nice one. Lots of A's.
Yeah, it's because it's not football related. As soon as it's football related, you lose your bottle. Also, a little. I'm not going to ask you to answer this right now, Justin, because we could be here for a fair while. But there's only 2 countries in the world who begin with the letter A and don't finish with the letter A. Just something for our listeners to have a little think about. I think Justin may have mentioned one of them there.
I did.
But yeah, try and figure out what the other one is. In the meantime, let's talk transfer news, because Justin's thinking about that now. He's not going to be focusing about the show for the next few minutes.
Just stop for 10 minutes.
But a bit of transfer news now, because there's been quite a lot going on with Hull City for varying reasons. The Moroccan midfielder Raider Lalawi, who had joined them earlier in the summer for a reported fee of £400,000, has now gone to Westerlo in Belgium. It's because that move was announced just days before Hull were given a ban on paying transfer fees for any players this summer window. So it was unclear what that meant for Lowry, as well as Gustavo Preta, who cost around $3 million and was in the same boat as him. But now it seems as if we finally may have some clarity with what's going on with those moves, Justin. They're not happening.
Yeah, it speaks to the problems Hull have had. It's disappointing because Gustavo Poeta is an example of a player that, speaking about him very early on in the summer, was very excited about him. Very excited about him coming into the Championship and seeing what he can do with Hull. So it's disappointing we're not going to be able to see him, but ultimately Hull are missing out on a very quality player here because of administration problems. And that's the mess of the situation the club should never have been in. That's the crux of it. You've got two examples here. I know we've got the transfer embargo, but we've got two examples here of it's physical, it's tangible. You fail to make payments for players. These are the consequences of your mistakes. You don't get the players that you want to buy, and you get a 3-window transfer ban on paying fees for players. So yeah, pay your bills.
Yep. I would echo pretty much everything you say there. I don't know much about this Lalawi, but it must be frustrating for Hull to go to all the work of signing a player and it for to mean absolutely nothing. Yeah. But you're right, that's what happens when you don't pay clubs on time. I thought it was interesting that Oscar Zambrano, a very highly rated midfielder who was on loan at Hull last season, but barely played because he was given a ban for doping, he's now signed for Maribor in Slovenia, who I didn't realise were owned by none other than Adjan Ilachani, the Hull City owner. So it sounds like they've found a way to keep him within their grasp while him not being at the club. So don't be surprised to see him back at Hull at some point in the near future. But yeah, bit of a messy one. It's been at Hull this summer, hasn't it? Have you seen, though, that they do have a player coming in? It's the son of Ronaldinho. 20-year-old João Mendes will be joining up with Hull's under-21s team. He had spent just over a year at Burnley, having previously been at Barcelona. So some Samba magic coming to Humberside, Justin.
It's like that meme of the... What's a polar bear doing in Arlington, Texas? I mean, Hull have had a fair few Brazilians pass through the ranks, so maybe that's unfair. Trevino is one of them that comes to mind. But with
Trevino,
not Trevino,
Giovanni, you silly man! Come on, have some respect for the goat.
Yeah, he is the goat. To be fair, that is. Yeah, I'll slap myself on the wrist, but. This is. I remember covering a story last summer, and a lot was made of it. And then not
when he
heard
moved
anything.
To Burnley, this is
when he moved to Burnley. Sorry, have not heard anything about it until this week when I found out it was released by Burnley. So I don't know whether that tells you of actually the player that he is, or just there's not been many cameras following him around. But I'm sure if he was any close to the quality that his dad was, he wouldn't be bouncing around.
Bouncing around the north of England.
Exactly.
How have I ended up here? I was in Barcelona a few years ago. Yeah, it's very easy to get excited about something like this, but when you see that Burnley released him after 1 year into a 2-year contract, it seems very much like, from what I've read, that he was signed by Barcelona as a favour to Ronaldinho by the club president, Joan Laporta, and he's now 20, yet to play a senior game of football. So it's a nice little story, a nice little bit of PR for Hull, but looking at this with extremely cynical glasses on, there doesn't seem to be a massive amount of evidence indicating that he's actually going to be following his father's footsteps. Maybe in terms of partying, I don't know. But in terms of football, I'd be surprised if he ever actually does anything at Hull. But by all means, prove me wrong, Zhao. There could still be a departure from Bristol City, even though the transfer window is closed here, Justin. That's because it's still open in Turkey, and Sky Sports say Göztepe are showing an interest in Sinclair Armstrong. They've reportedly bid around £1 million for the attacker, with Bristol City said to be willing to consider a sale. They paid £2.5 million for him just a year ago, and considering over the past 12 months, Bristol City have quite obviously not had a lot of money to spend, it's a move that's really not gone very well, has it?
Yeah, a bad move. Feli Mayulu not worked out either. So there's clear decision making on strikers last summer wasn't a good one. It's really funny because when Gerhard Struber came in at Bristol City, I was quite excited about Sinclair Armstrong, and it may be being the opportunity for him to fulfil, I wouldn't say potential, but fulfil elements of the striker that I think we saw in glimpses at QPR. But it still feels like he's really raw. Like he's very, very raw. But
he is the definition of raw player, isn't he? Because strength, pace, it's just footballing ability.
But that's what I mean. He's 22 years old, which is annoying because I think he's one player that is useful to have in your squad because he provides so much engine, but he falls way short when it comes to his primary job, which is scoring goals. He's got 10 goals in 115 league games. That's a frightening return, isn't it, for a striker? And that's loan spells in non-league as well. So did always seem a strange signing. I recognise his strengths and I do like what he offers, but frankly, just he doesn't score enough. He doesn't.
Yeah, he's played on the wing in fairness to him as well. But yeah, you know what his strengths are. It's just his weaknesses.
His football.
His football.
That's really
it's true though. Let's be honest. There's a lot of work that needs to be done there, and we thought Liam Manning may be the guy to do that last season, and it's not worked out. So maybe Bristol City are wise to cut their losses now, but it wouldn't surprise me if at some point he does end up being a decent player, because as you say, he's still fairly young. And now it's been a good few days for Championship players on international duty, Justin, most notably Watford attacker Nestori Irankunda. He not only scored his second goal for the Australian national team, but also nearly scored one of the most astonishing free kicks I've ever seen. We're talking 35 yards out. He's absolutely walloped it and it hit the underside of the bar and somehow didn't go in. But it's looking increasingly like Watford have signed the reincarnation of Juninho Pernambucano, because he's scored 2 free kicks already this season. He's unbelievable at a dead ball, isn't he?
Dead ball, yeah. The strike on him is unreal. I managed to find the clip of his free kick and put a post out, but like physics just not apply to him. Yeah. It just doesn't, because again, that's another version of a free kick that he's hit, because nice curve one against Swansea, lovely looper against Southampton, and then this one was just hit it for Australia. And honestly, like I said, Beckham had a technique. Irankunda's got several, and I'm not trying to blow him way out of proportion, but I don't think I've seen a player this young be this good at set pieces before.
And this consistent anyway. As well. That's it. I know he's only been in the Championship for a matter of weeks, but he might genuinely be on course to be the best set piece taker we've ever seen at this level, because I know it's very early days, but he could very well end up being that. Who is the best we've ever had at this level? I'm trying to think now. Peter Whittingham, maybe?
Whittingham was very good. Inigo Idiarquez.
I knew you were going to give him a mention as soon as I asked that question. I suppose Gareth Bale is the only real comparison you can make, because he was taking free kicks at a very young age at Southampton when he was in the Championship.
It's an interesting thing to ask the listeners, what set piece takers did they have for their clubs? Because Ross Wallace was another one as well, who was very efficient. So if listeners, please send in some of your picks here, because then we can delve into the vaults and just have a look at some compilations. Yeah,
not only who do you think is the best set piece taker ever at Championship level, who's the best set piece taker your club has ever had? Let us know. secondtierpod@gmail.com. Alternatively, just DM us on whichever is your preferred method of social media. But yeah, as I say, Irankunda, 2 free kicks already, just 4 games into the season, is very rare as it is. And as you say, at 19, his goal collection is astonishing. And for him to be as accurate as he is so consistently, let that be a warning. Don't give away any free kicks within shooting distance.
Come with Bowes Myhill, rather than concede a throw into Stoke, he conceded a corner.
Yeah.
We're going to get mass levels of panic whenever anyone gets near, whenever Watford players get near around the box.
Yeah.
Within 40 yards, do not give fouls away.
Just do not give a foul away, for the love of God. Sticking with Champo players on international duty, West Brom's Isaac Price scored against Germany. It means he's the youngest player ever to score 10 goals for the Northern Irish national team. I did speak about him on my new TikTok channel, Justin, just giving that a little plug. Make sure you follow Ryan Dilks 1. I don't understand TikTok at all, so please help me. I'm a man in his 30s who needs help understanding TikTok. So, but I think Price is absolutely class. I'm sure we'll speak about him plenty over the course of the season. Just before we go, Justin, have you seen the EFL managerial legend Steve Evans and how he's looking now? Someone who, I don't think it's unfair to say, got a fair bit of stick over the years for being a bit porky, for the lack of a better term. But he's now lost 42 kilograms in just 6 months. That's around 6.5 stone or 93 pounds, depending on what you prefer. He says it's down to an intense fitness regime, and I say good on him, Justin.
Yeah, it's an impressive thing to lose weight. It really is difficult, building good habits and exercising. It's a hard mindset to instill in yourself. So
maybe he's been doing what you've been doing, mate, a bit of CrossFit.
I would like to see that. If we can reach out to Steve Evans' representatives and get us doing a WOD together, then definitely.
What's that?
It's workout.
Okay. I was wondering if he was maybe doing his fitness regime was just him doing that fist pump thing that he does all the time. Just 6 months of him doing that non-stop.
But annoyingly, it does now make that iconic video of him sprinting down the touchline completely redundant.
Yeah, his trousers were falling down in that video, and they would be doing the same now, but for completely different reasons.
For better reasons, yeah.
But for that, I salute you, Steve Evans. Good on you, lad. And finally, we were talking earlier about free agents, Justin. A very interesting one who is still on the market is former Watford striker Emmanuel Dennis. However, he went viral this week after abruptly leaving an interview on Sky Sports. It's just so strange, someone actually leaving when the interview said bye, which makes sense for someone to do it, but actually seeing someone do it on TV was like, oh, he's actually done it.
It's a very normal social cue that when someone says bye, you do leave.
Yeah.
But in the essence of a TV studio, you don't leave until it's the ad break.
If anything, it is a bit strange that they'll say, oh, thank you for coming in, and then they'll just carry on sitting there. Because if you did that in any other social circumstance, it would be very strange, wouldn't it?
It absolutely would. Yeah. It is true. Maybe Emmanuel Dennis is sparking something here. Maybe he's going to... I want to see every interviewer now just get up and go.
Yeah. Or the complete opposite is what I was saying. When you say goodbye to someone in a social setting, just carry on sitting there and just stare into
two ways
space.
to look at it. Yeah.
There we go, ladies and gents. This has been the Second Tier Podcast, and this has been the midweek show. We'll be back again tomorrow to look ahead to the Championship action. The Championship is back after the most inconvenient international break of all time. So we look forward to seeing you then for that. But this has been the Second Tier Podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.